I think it's wrong that newspaper reporters have all these documents, 50,000, whatever they have, and are selling them and giving them out as if these, it just doesn't make sense. We ought to come up with a way of stopping it. I don't know how to do that. That's more of the courts and the policymakers, but from my perspective, it's wrong. And to allow this to go on is wrong.
Cameron's obviously, going to say something like, we're not responsible enough. We're not responsible because we produce this, we're irresponsible, I'd basically say, for printing this information. But I mean, that's, of course he would say we're irresponsible, but I mean, he's looking at it from a Prime Minister's point of view, and he's been told by all his security advisors that, my gosh, this is terrible, the Guardians. But what do you mean? It's just like they have their vested interest.
It is significant that Edward Snowden, like Manning and Assange before him, has been charged under the Espionage Act of 1917. Espionage is punishable by life imprisonment, and its use against whistleblowers and journalists sets a legal precedent that speaking to the press, who communicate with the public, is tantamount to communicating with the enemy during war. The fear is that this amounts to the criminalisation of investigative journalism wherever it fulfills its purpose, which is to hold power to account.
The very real aspiration of the NSA that we've now learned is to essentially record the internet, to keep track of every time anyone says anything to anyone online, on the phone, through any kind of communication, and store it indefinitely in a government database in case at some point in the future it's important. That's not the role for a government that our Constitution sets out. They have every tool they need to fight terrorism. They don't need this one.
The American Civil Liberties Union and Liberty in the UK, which are suing the NSA and GCHQ respectively, issued this joint statement.
The Guardian's publication of information from Edward Snowden has uncovered a breach of trust by the US and UK governments on the grandest scale. The newspaper's principled and selective revelations demonstrate our rulers' contempt for personal rights, freedom and the rule of law. Yet in Britain, that conversation is in danger of being lost beneath self-serving spin and scaremongering, with journalists who dare to question the secret state accused of aiding the enemy.
They are not alone. Frank LaRue, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression, has also argued Cameron's crackdown on The Guardian is doing serious damage to the UK's international reputation for investigative journalism and press freedom, and a coalition of 70 of the world's leading human rights organisations have written an open letter to the Prime Minister to the same effect.
Most important, he has not stopped the mass collection of all of our private electronic communications. He's not going to put them in a government computer anymore. He's going to put them in the computer of some new agency he's going to establish that is ostensibly independent. But nonetheless, he still claims that we have no right in stopping the government from collecting this information, that doesn't implicate our privacy rights. One way to show how crazy that is to think about the government putting video cameras in all of our bedrooms and saying, don't worry, the feed is just going into a government computer. We won't look at it unless we have a special reason to do so. Would you feel satisfied with that? Would you feel that your privacy was not being violated? Of course not. But that's exactly what the government is doing with our private communications.
And in January of this year, the Independent Federal Advisory Board ruled that the bulk data collection programs were both ineffective and illegal.
The problem is the bad guys are amongst us. They will figure it out. This happened in 1998 after the East Africa embassy bombings. Somebody revealed publicly that the way we tracked bin Laden was through SATCOM communications. Within 2 days, we never saw bin Laden in communications again. My concern is the revealing of these programs allow terrorists to know the best weapons that we have against them. It will cause irreversible and significant damage. And it means that terrorists now have an upper edge in conducting attacks, probably in Europe and potentially in the United States. And our ability to stop them is reduced. And so when people die, those that are responsible for leaking it are the ones who should be held accountable.
I have nothing to hide, but I still don't want to be treated like a criminal. again, the old adage, innocent until proven guilty, is then just thrown out away, isn't it really? So we're now guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. We as a community, me as a person, me as somebody who lives within this area, why should I be victimized? Why should I be made a scapegoat out of saying, actually, we believe you might have the potential. Well, anybody might have the potential, but at the end of the day, all we want to do is live our lives like law-abiding citizens that we are.
But to say stop ignores the lessons that we learned in 9/11, and that would be absurd.
The record of the intelligence security agencies have been very, very bad in the past. They cannot, it's in their own interest to exaggerate. GCHQ is so completely secretive that it's counterproductive because they don't explain to anybody, not even ministers know what they've been doing. And I think as the debate goes on, over the months, I think more and more members of Parliament realise that The Guardian is doing quite a good thing exposing these things.
NSA's charter, and it was a legitimate one, was to do foreign intelligence, and I was with that all the way, and I did the best I could in that job. Unfortunately, they took those programs that I built and turned them on you, and I'm sorry for that. I didn't intend that, but they did that. That's the reason I left.
We must use this moment to articulate the choice that is before the government of the United States of America. Will it return to and reaffirm the values, the revolutionary values it was founded on? Or will it lurch off the precipice, dragging us all into a dangerous and oppressive world in which journalists fall silent under the fear of prosecution and citizens must whisper in the dark?
As the Snowden files continue to emerge, despite the best efforts of those who want to keep them secret, there's no telling how deep the rabbit hole goes. What GCHQ and the NSA fought each step of the way to conceal is now out in the open. That the surveillance state has grown more powerful than we could have imagined. At the executive level, both the secret services and their governments justify their programs on the basis of security, condemning whistleblowers and journalists for putting lives in danger, and arguing that those with nothing to hide have nothing to fear. But many suspect abuse of this power and have concerns over what it means for our democracy, along with the safety and civil rights of politically active or vulnerable groups. There is a growing international consensus that the technical capacity of the world's superpowers has outstripped the legislation in place to govern them. Whether GCHQ and the NSA can be held accountable, or are simply above the law and dangerous by design, remains to be seen. But after Snowden, the sight of a search engine or the ring of the phone will never be the same again.
And it's led us to a point in our relationship with the government where we have an executive, a Department of Justice, that's unwilling to prosecute high officials who lied to Congress and the country on camera, but they'll stop at nothing to persecute someone who told them the truth. People all over the world are realizing that these programs don't make us more safe. They hurt our economy, they hurt our country, they limit our ability to speak and think and live and be creative, to have relationships, to associate freely. And they're going, this doesn't make us more safe, it makes us less safe. It puts us at risk of coming into conflict with our own government.